History Secrets.
There is a point on the world map that many strategists consider one of the most sensitive places on the planet. A narrow strait of water just over 30 kilometers wide, the Strait of Hormuz. At first glance, it may seem like just another maritime passage, but its importance goes far beyond that. Approximately 20% of all oil traded in the world passes through it. Ships depart daily from Gulf countries, carrying energy that powers entire economies. A large portion of this oil is headed to Asia, India, China, South Korea, Japan. These economies depend deeply on this energy flow. Some countries import most of their oil precisely from this region. This means that any disruption in the Strait of Hormuz would have immediate effects on the global economy, energy, transport, industrial production. Everything could be affected. But the impact would not be only energetic. There's also an important financial dimension. For decades, the global oil trade has been linked to the use of the US dollar. This system became known as the petrodollar. In this arrangement, a large portion of international oil transactions takes place using the American currency. This helps sustain global demand for dollars, and consequently strengthens the economic position of the United States in the international financial system. For this reason, the stability of the Persian Gulf has always been considered strategic for Washington. Several American military bases have been established in the region over the past decades. These bases are part of a network of military presence that stretches across the entire Middle East. However, the geography of the region creates complex challenges. On one side of the strait lies Iran, a country with mountainous territory and significant strategic depth. On the other side are the countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council, regions largely desert and with highly concentrated infrastructure. This geographical difference has important military implications. Mountainous territories can offer natural locations to hide military equipment, missile bases, underground facilities, defense systems. Desert and urbanized areas, on the other hand, tend to be more exposed. Energy infrastructure, ports, industrial plants. These targets can be vulnerable in conflict scenarios. Another critical factor is dependence on basic resources. Many Gulf countries import a large portion of their food. In addition, they face shortages of potable water. To meet this need, they extensively use desalination plants. These facilities turn seawater into fresh water. They are essential for supplying millions of people. Without these plants, entire cities would struggle to survive in such arid regions. This creates a strategic vulnerability. Concentrated critical infrastructure can become targets in scenarios of military tension. Energy, water, ports. At the same time, Iran itself also faces structural challenges. Climate change, prolonged periods of drought, pressure on water supply. These vulnerabilities show how modern conflicts may involve not only traditional military forces, but also civilian infrastructure, natural resources, economic systems. Another important element in the regional dynamic is the presence of multiple international actors. United States, European countries, Russia, China, all have strategic interests in the Middle East. Because of the region's energy importance, any local conflict can quickly take on global dimensions. Maritime routes, financial markets, energy prices. This type of interdependence makes the regional balance extremely delicate. Small escalations can produce wide-ranging effects. At the same time, Technological development is changing the nature of conflicts. Drones, long-range missiles, decentralized command systems. These tools allow smaller actors to challenge traditional military forces. This creates a more complex strategic environment. Traditional military powers still possess enormous capacity, but they face new types of asymmetric threats. Within this scenario, some analysts describe the Middle East as an extremely sensitive geopolitical chessboard, a region where local rivalries mix with global disputes. And at the center of this chessboard lies that very narrow strait of just a few dozen kilometers, an apparently small passage, but capable of influencing the energy and economic stability of the entire planet. If we look more deeply at the strategic balance of the Persian Gulf, we realize that potential conflict in this region does not depend only on military power. It depends, above all, on geography. Geography determines trade routes, defines logistical vulnerabilities, and often reveals which regions have natural advantages in a war scenario. In the case of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's position offers a particular type of strategic advantage. Its mountainous territory allows defense systems and attack platforms to be concealed in areas that are difficult to reach. These mountains create a naturally defensive environment. Military installations can be hidden in tunnels. Mobile launchers can be moved quickly. Drone systems can operate from positions that are difficult to detect. This type of geography turns the territory into something close to a natural fortress. On the other side of the Gulf, the situation is very different. Most Gulf Cooperation Council countries have flat, desert territory. Critical infrastructure is concentrated in specific regions: ports, refineries, oil fields, desalination plants. These elements are essential for the functioning of local economies, but they can also become vulnerable in scenarios of military tension, especially in an era marked by drones, precision missiles, and long-range attacks. In addition to energy, there is another fundamental resource in this region: water. In many Gulf countries, most potable water comes from desalination plants. These facilities use energy to turn seawater into fresh water. Without these plants, large cities simply would not be able to sustain their populations. This makes these structures an essential part of regional strategic infrastructure. On the other hand, Iran itself faces significant environmental challenges: prolonged droughts, reduction of reservoirs, pressure on water supply in several regions of the country. This type of fragility shows how contemporary conflicts do not involve only armed forces. They may involve basic resources: water, energy, civil infrastructure. Another important aspect of the regional dynamic is the role of foreign military bases. The United States maintains several military installations throughout the Middle East. These bases were established over decades, especially during the Cold War and subsequent conflicts in the region. They function as points of strategic presence. They allow power projection, logistical coordination, regional monitoring. But the presence of these bases also creates a complex environment. In scenarios of tension, they can become potential targets. This turns local conflicts into disputes with international implications. Another element that makes the situation delicate is the possibility of escalation involving other powers. European countries have important energy interests in the region. Russia and China also closely monitor any change in the strategic balance of the Middle East. Because of this network of overlapping interests, a regional conflict could quickly gain broader dimensions: trade routes, energy markets, military alliances. This type of scenario leads many analysts to describe the Persian Gulf as one of the most sensitive regions in the international system. Small crises can generate large consequences. At the same time, history shows that geopolitical rivalries often go through periods of tension, followed by moments of diplomatic adjustment. Negotiations, agreements, temporary balances. The future of the region will depend largely on the ability of the involved powers to manage these tensions, avoid unnecessary escalations, and preserve the stability of global energy routes. Because in the end, that seemingly small strait continues to be one of the most strategic points on the planet, a narrow maritime corridor, but with potential impact on the entire global economy. This was just one of the many enigmas that have crossed the centuries. Around the world, there are lost cities, indecipherable manuscripts, and historical events that still challenge our understanding. Some of these mysteries have begun to be revealed. Others remain completely unexplained. And in the next documentary, we will explore one of these enigmas that continues to intrigue historians to this day. Because when it comes to the history of humanity, there is always a new secret waiting to be discovered. Because some secrets of history are still waiting to be revealed.